Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. The story begins as we watch someone barely managing to stay on a tightrope. Students gossip about how he just got into another fight and how he is nothing but trouble. Even the parents discuss how dangerous he is. Everyone thinks that he's too dangerous to even look at, but it's to be expected since everyone knows that he doesn't know how to interact with people. They insult his appearance, citing how he refuses to dye his hair black. Even the color of one of his eyes is wrong, and they use that to say that he must be cursed. Everyone thinks he is disgusting, and the kid eventually falls off the rope. We then see our angry protagonist for the first time named Sakura. He explains that he likes the strong and couldn't care less about the weak. Nearby, some guys harass a girl and wonder if she wants to go do something. She would like to bash some eggs over their heads, but that would just be a waste of good eggs. The guy warns her not to act so stuck up, and he keeps her from leaving. Sakura then explains that what he hates the most are weak people who think they are strong. Sakura interferes with the gang of harassers and tells them that it's too early to be acting so lame. The leader tries to attack Sakura, but unfortunately he is one of the types that Sakura hates the most. Sakura easily drops this guy and wonders what could possibly be going on in his head that makes him think that he is strong when he is not. Sakura demands that they drill his name and face into their brains so that they can tell all the weak people they know to run away from him when they see him. Sakura is some kind of psychopath, as he also wants them to know his name so that they can tell all the strong people how to find him. He declares that he is Sakura Hakura from Furin High School. Sakura leaves these jerks, but the girl stops him to say thank you. Sakura is confused and wonders if she is talking to him. She confirms that she was, and Sakura makes it very clear that he actually didn't do that to save her. He only beat those guys up because they annoyed him. Sakura declines her offer to eat something, but she ends up feeding him anyway. She can tell that he isn't from this town, and it's pretty rare for anyone to come visit. She explains that the gang he had just fought has been causing a lot of problems, and the town's public safety has become non-existent. She admits to not being from this town either, and introduces herself as Tachibana. Sakura can't understand why she's being so nice, since most people would be afraid of him, especially after he just beat up 5 guys. Sakura begrudgingly eats her food when she asks him to, but he is shocked by how amazing it is. He wonders if her restaurant does takeoff, but she corrects him as the dummy is trying to say takeout. Tachibana points out that his eye and hair colors are all out of whack, and he wonders if she has a problem with it. She is more amazed than anything, but the paranoid Sakura thinks she wants to brawl. Sakura is surprised because normally people are grossed out by his appearance, and they demand that he dye his hair. Sakura explains that looks don't matter in a fight, and that is why he came to Furin. Furin is known for having students with the worst grades, but they are also the best fighters. They are the people that slip through the cracks at other schools and end up at Furin. Here, fractions brawl every day to decide who is on top. Their dedication to fight is so strong that they even fight on holidays, and Sakura is determined to become the top dog. Tachibana points out that this is aiming pretty high, but Sakura reveals that the reality is, he is just as dumb as a brick, and fighting is all he knows. To him though, nothing sounds better than fighting to be number 1, and this place is perfect for him. It soon becomes clear to Tachibana why he's in uniform already when school doesn't even start until tomorrow. It's because he's excited. The embarrassed Sakura explains that he just moved, so he didn't have anything else to wear, but she just teases him more. Our boy Sakura resorts to fighting as always, and demands that they take this argument outside. Just then, one of Tachibana's elderly customers almost forgets his to-go bag, but Sakura reminds him. As Sakura heads home, he thinks about how strange that entire interaction was. The old man gave him some candies and told Tachibana to thank him. Sakura isn't used to so much praise, so he calls the entire town weird, including Tachibana. He points out that he's wearing the uniform of a school of delinquents, and his appearance is really strange as well. It doesn't make sense for people to be thanking him. Normal people would be on their guard around him and wouldn't trust him. Sakura once picked up someone's wallet, and they accused him of stealing it. Just then, Tachibana explains that Sakura made the right choice by coming to Furin, but unfortunately, there's no possible way he will become the top dog. Shockingly, she states that he might not even beat anyone there, let alone be top dog. Sakura points out that she has no clue how strong he is. She acknowledges that he might have strong muscles, but explains that he still won't be able to become top dog. The problem that he has is that he is all alone. Sakura becomes furious and declares that he's not so weak that he needs to rely on anyone else to win. As he leaves, Tachibana clarifies that she isn't talking about physical strength. She recommends that he go meet some Furin kids, since then he will understand. Nearby, a group of hoodlums wreak havoc, and some poor lady calls someone for help. Sakura runs into the guys from earlier, and the leader is surprised that he came. He calls our boy Furin trash, but Sakura just tries to ignore him. The leader points out that he didn't forget his face, and mocks Sakura for his appearance. This guy is shocked though when he realizes that this is Sakura's real hair and eye color. They thought that he was just doing some terrible cosplay, but he points out that it being real is even more disgusting. Sakura smiles, as this is what a normal reaction to his appearance is supposed to be like. This is the disgust that he has gotten used to, but it's okay because he has given up on that end. Sakura still wants to feel like he has value though. If he can beat whoever is in front of him, then he can feel like he is better than them. The problem is that Sakura can't stop thinking about how Tachibana told him that he won't be top dog because he is alone. The leader declares that his gang will start a war against Furin for Sakura punching him, but Sakura isn't even listening. He's still focused on Tachibana's words as he punches the leader again, and he declares that he isn't the one avoiding people. Sakura lets out his true feelings about his appearance. It doesn't make sense how people act. He knows better than anyone that he looks weird, but he never did anything to the people that insult him. This is just who he is. Sakura starts beating down on this huge group of thugs. In his mind, as long as he is the strongest and the best fighter, he will be top dog. Being alone has nothing to do with it. The gang tries to attack him all at once, but it's no use as Sakura is far more skilled than them. Sakura instantly takes on any opponent that comes near him, and the fight is somehow heavily one-sided, even though Sakura is outnumbered. Just then, one of the thugs takes Tachibana hostage, but he pays dearly for this very stupid move as Sakura instantly knocks him out. Tachibana thanks him, but Sakura once again explains that the thugs just pissed him off. They tried to use a knife, so he tells the idiots to keep the fight clean. One guy tries to sneak up on him, but he just ends up learning a valuable lesson. Sakura fights off even more of them, but he is hindered by having to stay in one place to defend Tachibana. He wonders why he's defending her in the first place, and reminds himself that helping others never ends well. Still, Sakura continues to defend her, but eventually one of the thugs uses the knife to cut his leg. Sakura is in a really bad spot now, and thinks about how this is why he doesn't defend people. He once again questions why he decided to help her, and prepares to take a bat right to his skull. Just then, someone stops the attack, and Sakura notices that this stranger is wearing a Furin uniform. This guy surprisingly stopped the bat with his back, and he tells Tachibana not to tell a certain person that she was in danger. This guy wipes out the bat wielder, and tells the punks that they made a real mess in this town. His buddies arrive, and the guy furiously tells the gang that they are in big trouble. Backup has arrived, but they are disappointed to see so few opponents, as they didn't all need to come to fight. Sakura is in absolute shock, as he can't understand why Furin is saving him. The thugs are terrified to see the one named Hiragi, but they are confident they can win since they outnumber them by a lot. Hiragi tells the others to make quick work of these guys, so they begin to absolutely demolish them. One guy goes to attack Sakura, and Sakura gets caught in a terrible spot as his leg can't move. Hiragi saves him again, and tells Sakura to stand back if he is hurt. Sakura furiously points out that he is not his boss, and explains that the thugs were his to fight. Hiragi just tells him to stop moving around since it makes it harder for them to protect him. Sakura is completely shocked, and he looks around to find that the people of the town are cheering on the Furin guys. Sakura can't believe what he is hearing, and Tachibana reminds him about how she said that the town's public safety was nearly non-existent. However, this was only true up until 2 years ago. That all changed, and it was all thanks to the students of Furin. The first thing they did was put a notice board at the town's entrance. It states that if someone brings trouble to their town by harming people or property, they will be the ones to purge them, no matter who they are. Tachibana explains that somewhere along the line, the townspeople gave the Furin students a new name. Because they fight to protect the town, they are known as the town's Furin shield, called Windbreaker. After the fight, all the townspeople come out to thank the boys. Although they used to be known as low-grade hoodlums, the Furin students are now well respected in the community. However, they still do fight quite a bit. They are beloved by everyone, but most importantly, they are needed. Sakura is shocked at how different this town is, since the fighters are treated like heroes. They have the appearance of thugs, and they even fight all the time, but no one is afraid of them. Sakura is overwhelmed with emotion, and he is shocked when the townspeople tell him that he did a great job holding on his own. Some little old lady even offers to treat his wound, but Sakura can't take all the kindness and demands that they all stop. Tachibana calmly begins to tend to his wound and reminds him that she said that he was alone. However, she explains that she could tell right away that he wasn't choosing to be. She can't figure him out completely, but she explains that the people of this town need his strength. Sakura can't handle everything that's happening, and he declares that he doesn't need anyone and doesn't get involved. Tachibana is quick to point out though that his actions say something different. He reminded the old man about his bag, and he also fought hard to protect her. Tachibana points out that he actually hasn't given up on people, and he doesn't have to. At the very least, she declares that she won't turn her back on him, so she asks that he turns towards her as well. Tachibana is sure that this will be the way he can become who he wanted. Sakura still has a hard time accepting it all, and he makes a mad dash towards the others. He leaps into the air and points out how the delinquents seem to be playing hero now. He admits that all this stuff about being the town shield sounds really cool, and he absolutely destroys the gang's leader that was terrorizing the town. Everyone watches in shock, and Sakura wonders if people will really stick by him there. We then learn that this is the story about how a low-grade pariah who only knows how to fight became the town's hero. Sometime later, Sakura arrives at Tachibana's restaurant, furious for having to carry old Grandma Sato. She fears that she might get hurt getting off his back, but he just tells Granny to hurry up. Grandma Sato shocks our boy with her dismount, and he is furious since she told him that her hips hurt so much that she couldn't walk. The old lady thanks him, but Sakura still doesn't know how to handle such kindness. Tachibana stops him from leaving and gives him some food as today is his entrance ceremony. It's still pretty early though, so she once again determines that he is all pumped up to go to school. He denies it, but she completely understands since there are a lot of interesting characters at Furin. Just then, some kid named Nirei arrives, falling flat on his face. He wonders what Tachibana thinks about his new uniform, but Sakura points out that he still has the tags on his jacket. Nirei manages to get all the tags off his clothes, and Tachibana informs Sakura that the two of them will be in the same grade. Nirei notices Sakura's strange hair and eye, so Sakura thinks he might have a problem with it. Nirei is surprised by his attitude, and determines that Sakura must have it rough, always being so stressed out at his young age. Nirei tries to figure out why some nobody like Sakura came to their town. Sakura is insulted, but Tachibana assures him that Nirei is like that with everyone. Nirei eagerly points out that Furin High is no ordinary school. Members of both Furin stood up to protect the locals. They defend the weak and crush the wicked, so they are heroes of justice. Everyone that comes to Furin admires them, and they all want to help protect the town as well. Nirei is one of them, but he wonders why someone with no ties to Furin like Sakura came to their town. Sakura makes his intentions very clear and reveals that he is there to take the top spot. Protecting the town is great and all, but there are a lot of strong people here, and Sakura just wants to be the best among them. Nirei gets very serious and tells him that he shouldn't say things he will never be able to do. His reason for saying this though is because he fears Sakura will go bald. Sakura has had enough of his little comedy routine, so he demands that they fight, but it's getting late. Nirei must leave as he wants to do 3 rounds of town patrol before the entrance ceremony. He declares that starting today he will be a hero of justice, but he shows just how clumsy he is as he leaves. Tachibana points out how funny the kid is, but Sakura can't believe a dork like him wants to be a hero of justice. Tachibana is surprised to hear Sakura talking about someone else's looks, but Sakura meant that guys like him are the type to always chicken out in fights. To him, nothing is lamer. Tachibana says it's just his assumption, but Sakura explains that he has seen it a sickening amount of times. Tachibana then takes a moment to teach him something. She points out that the coffee fruit is a much different color than the coffee beans that she has in jars. The lesson is that if you look at things only from one perspective, you will never see its true shape. She doesn't think he should be so quick to make assumptions, and encourages him to get to know people better so he can figure out what they are really like. Sakura really takes in this valuable lesson, but he just figures that she means Nirei is a good fighter. Tachibana is disappointed as she wonders if fighting is all he cares about. After he leaves, Sakura still thinks he is right. Just then, he is stopped and offered some free bread. He's pretty confused, so the baker explains that Furin kids are always helping out the town, and he just wants to give back. They recognize Sakura as the one who stood up against the gang the day before, and point out that everyone is talking about him. Sakura doesn't know how to handle praise and leaves, but they insist that he take some sandwiches for lunch. As Sakura goes through town, he finds that several other people feel the same way. Sakura can't figure out what's going on and wonders what is wrong with all the people in this town. They're acting way too nice to a guy like him, but Sakura realizes that he was just assuming that they would treat him poorly. Just then, Sakura is shocked when a girl begs him for help. In some alley, Nirei gets beat up for stopping a guy from bothering a girl. The guys just mock him for thinking he could protect the town, and they declare that he's the one that needs protecting. Nirei tries to make them take it back, but he just gets pushed around. The guys are surprised though when Nirei declares that those who cause pain or bring destruction to the town will be purged by Bofurin. The guys all have a good laugh and point out that only guys in superhero shows talk like that. The leader gets really annoyed and declares that it doesn't matter if Nirei's a windbreaker, he is the one that will be purged. The guy prepares to attack him, but Sakura shows up just in time to help Nirei. Nirei is shocked and wonders why Sakura is saving him, but Sakura doesn't even pay him any attention. The bullies laugh as Sakura is there to save his buddy, but Sakura is insulted by that. He reveals that it's not true, and he just hates weaklings that think they are strong. Sakura declares that it makes him sick, so the bullies decide to show him what they can do. Nirei fears for his safety as he is sure that Sakura can't fight them on his own, but there's nothing to worry about as the guys are all unconscious just seconds later. Nirei is surprised that he handled them in the blink of an eye, and he wonders just who Sakura is. Nirei is terrified of him now, but he still thanks Sakura for his help. He is sure that Sakura is disappointed that someone like him is in Bofurin and attending Furin High, but Sakura just points out that he wasn't saving him. Sakura calls him a typical poser and warns Nirei that he should know what he is and is not capable of. Nirei explains that he always used to get beat up in middle school. One day he was saved by someone from Furin, and it was someone that he would normally be scared of. In that moment though, the guy was really cool, so Nirei wanted to be just like him. Nirei came to Furin to become just as awesome, but he breaks down as he realizes that he is just pathetic. Sakura thinks about how he assumed that Nirei was the type to chicken out in fights, but it's clear that he actually stood up for himself. Sakura tells Nirei that he is a weak fighter, but there is a chance that he might not be that lame. Nirei is shocked and the girl he protected arrives to thank him for sticking up for her. She thanks Sakura too, but he tries to get out of there. Nirei stops him and once again breaks out his little book. He bombards Sakura with questions about his height, weight, blood type, and hobbies. The kid goes crazy analyzing Sakura and taking notes on him. Sakura stops him, so Nirei explains that he just likes gathering data on guys he likes and thinks are cool. Sakura just tells him to do whatever he wants, so Nirei takes this as an invitation to watch Sakura up close and personal. Nirei offers to show him around and reveals that while he might not be any help in a fight, he is the best guide when it comes to the town and the people living there. Sakura is then surprised when Nirei declares that he can guide Sakura all the way to the top. Moments later though, Nirei must encourage Sakura to get going, but he is busy eating because he gets really hungry after fighting. Sakura is amazed by how good the bread is, and Nirei gets caught up in it too, but he realizes that they have to hurry up and go to school. The two eventually make it there, and Sakura is excited since there will be a bunch of people like those guys he met before. Nirei finds the class roster, where he is delighted to find that he and Sakura are in the same class. Nirei is amazed by all the other names on the list, but he doesn't actually know them personally. They are just people he admires. Sakura doesn't think it matters who is in their class, but Nirei points out that they will be spending a lot of time around these people. Just then, Nirei is shocked by one name in particular, and Sakura points out that he has lost all his energy. Nirei gets over it though to ask that Sakura try to be friendly to everyone in class, and he tries to encourage him to smile at them. Sakura thinks he must be joking, but Nirei points out that members of Bofurin gathered together to protect the town. Sakura is not from there, so the guys definitely won't like that, and they will ask Sakura why he came to Furin. Nirei thinks it will be very important to show that Sakura is harmless and not Bofurin's enemy. Sakura isn't even listening though, as he is warming up. Nirei wonders why, and he is shocked when Sakura says that he's just getting ready for anything. Nirei is disappointed that he wasn't listening, and points out that as an outsider, even the slightest misunderstanding could turn the entire school against him. Sakura doesn't actually care if every single person turns against him, and he reminds Nirei that he is there to fight his way to the top. Sakura enters the class, and Nirei is horrified when it becomes pretty obvious that everyone is staring at him. The class is filled with tough-looking students, but Sakura couldn't ask for anything better. One student knows who Sakura is, but Sakura instantly has his guard up. Nirei apologizes for him and instantly recognizes this student from his book. However, the kid says he is Leonardo DiCaprio. Sakura falls for it at first, and Nirei had no clue that this cold-looking dude could be such a jokester. Nirei knows that his name is actually So, and So says that his eye patch seals away an ancient Chinese spirit in his right eye. Sakura loses his temper when he realizes that the kid is all talk, but So gets serious and approaches Sakura. The moment becomes tense as Nirei fears that people from out of town really are treated as anomalies. Sakura prepares for a fight, and Nirei is terrified that there might not be a way to stop it. Just then, he is shocked when So just pats Sakura on the back and compliments him for being the star of the Main Street Brawl that happened the day before. The other students wonder what he's talking about, so explains that before Hiragi arrived at the brawl, Sakura was the one protecting the town first. Nirei didn't even know this, and the other students begin to gather around Sakura. There were rumors about an unknown student in their uniform, and they are glad that this person did a good job helping the town. They're a bit too close for comfort, but Nirei determines that this is better than them turning against Sakura. It's pretty clear that they won't think of him as their enemy, so Nirei relaxes as the person he feared before should be okay with Sakura too. The guys still wonder why he came to Furin in the first place, so Sakura reveals that he came for the top spot. They are all surprised, so Nirei tries to explain that Sakura isn't there to hold them down and beat them up. Sakura says that he actually is, but his new buddy tells him to let him handle this. Just then, a table gets tossed, and it's some terrifying student. Sakura gets an excited look on his face, but Nirei begs him not to fight this guy. He is the most dangerous guy in their class, and might even be the most dangerous in the entire school. His name is Kiyotaro. Sakura declares that he prefers fighting mad dogs like him, so Kiyotaro says that he will crush him. Kiyotaro throws a powerful punch, but Nirei is shocked when he realizes that So instantly moved him out of the way. Sakura dodged it as well, and compliments Kiyotaro as the type he expected to see in Furin. Kiyotaro gets even more upset, but this is exactly what Sakura was hoping for. Nirei is terrified, but So is glad to see some sparks flying. So explains that Sakura's mistake was saying that he would be top dog in front of Kiyotaro. Sakura does his best to dodge all of Kiyotaro's attacks, while So explains that Kiyotaro has been visiting Furin High School since he was in middle school. In recognition of his determination, Kiyotaro was the only person allowed to call himself Bofurin before officially starting. He has such an extreme loyalty to the top dog that he has earned himself the nickname the Top Dog's Fanatic. Another student begs that So stop the fight since he is sure that the new student will have his life taken by Kiyotaro, but everyone is shocked when Sakura dodges another attack and lands a counter. Sakura points out that Kiyotaro is a fan of the top dog, which means that he can't think for himself. He probably can't even make his own choices, so Sakura explains that a guy like that has no chance of beating him. The bloodied Kiyotaro is furious, so the two go in for some more fighting, but they are interrupted by an announcement. The person on the other end fumbles around with the microphone, but eventually welcomes all the students to Furin. Sakura is annoyed about being interrupted, so he just wants to get back to the fight. However, the other students are completely focused on the announcement, and Sakura wonders who the guy is that was able to get their attention. The guy introduces himself as Umemiya, and Sakura realizes that he is Furin's top dog, the strongest guy in Furin. Everyone waits, eager to hear what he has to say, but Umemiya says that he forgot. He decides to just tell everyone to remember to enjoy their youth. They are in high school now, so they should try to make a lot of memories. He suggests that they all go to the beach and get some shaved ice. Nirei can't believe what this tough guy is saying, but Kiyotaro thinks that he's trying to make fun of the top dog. Umemiya believes that with so many students there's bound to be some friction, but he assumes that they're not troublemakers who would start a fistfight on the first day. Kiyotaro tries to hide the fact that they are troublemakers fistfighting on the first day, so he wipes away the blood on his face. Umemiya then gets real serious for one message, and he tells everyone to defend the town. They were given the name Bofurin, so they must protect the people and everything important. That is the school's one and only rule, so all the students accept. Sakura is shocked that this guy isn't even in the room, but everyone is eager to obey his orders, and he wonders just how strong of a fighter Umemiya is. So wants the two fighters to shake hands in a grand display of youthful understanding, but Sakura doesn't even think the fight is over yet. Nirei wonders why Sakura is getting so red, but Sakura just silences him. So reminds Kiyotaro that Umemiya wouldn't like to hear that he was fighting a classmate, and he tells Sakura that showing respect to other students is important if he wants to be top dog. Kiyotaro surprisingly wants to shake hands, so Nirei begs Sakura to hurry up and do it. Sakura prepares to do so and reminds himself to just shake it. Sakura must have been through some serious hardship because he must remind himself not to slap Kiyotaro's hand away or throw him to the ground. Sakura shakes his hand, but thinks about how touching people outside of a fight feels really weird. So is glad to see that their youth is burning bright, but their grip is so tight that they both wonder if the other is actually a gorilla. The other students celebrate, and they are amazed that Sakura actually managed to land a hit on Kiyotaro. Sakura is surprised by how nice they are being, but he realizes that it has been this way the entire time since coming to Furin. Sakura has gone silent with his thoughts, but the other students just wonder if he got choked out. Sakura joins the fun as he points out that he wouldn't get choked out so easily. In his mind though, he thinks about how he had no idea that people could be so friendly. Just then, the students are told to go outside, and moments later, Sakura is surprised that they have to paint over some graffiti. Sakura has no clue why they are doing this, but Nirei takes pride in doing a good job, and so compliments his painting skills. A look back to just before this painting moment shows what happened when they were told to go outside. The student that demanded them to do it explains that he will get in trouble if they are too slow. It took them almost 8 minutes to get outside, so Hiragi explains that toddlers are faster than them. Sakura tells Nirei that he saw Hiragi when he saved Tachibana, but Hiragi overhears him and gets furious. Sakura is never supposed to mention that Tachibana was there, and Hiragi explains that he will be in big trouble if it gets out that Tachibana was in danger. Hiragi threatens that something bad will happen if he doesn't listen, but this just ends up being that he will start coughing up blood. Hiragi takes some stomach medicine and explains that he doesn't know what brought Sakura to this school, but he chose one tough general to be under. Nirei wonders what Hiragi was like, so Sakura explains that he's the type of weirdo to stress himself into a stomachache, then has to take a Gaskun 10 pill. Nirei diligently takes notes on Hiragi and explains that he is doing it because Hiragi is one of the school's 4 kings. Umemiya sits at the top of Bofurin, but just below him are his generals, the 4 kings. Each one basically acts like a captain for all 3 years of a given class. Hiragi has the students split up into groups with the 2nd or 3rd year as their captain, and he explains that they will be going to patrol the town. Hiragi is the captain of Sakura's group, which also has Nirei, So, and Kiyotaro. Kiyotaro and Sakura are in the same group because Umemiya told Hiragi to keep a close eye on the troublemaking fistfighters. The guys are surprised that he knows about the fight, so Sakura points out that he was just defending himself. Hiragi has to pull them apart so they can continue patrolling. Sakura points out that all they are doing is walking around and wonders why they aren't beating up some intruders. However, Hiragi points out that that would be offense, not defense. Walking around in their uniforms is enough to scare away the smaller gangs, so that is what they are doing. Sakura thinks that's just boring, but Hiragi points out that only enjoying fights doesn't make him much fun either. Just then, Hiragi does his duty as he helps an old man on a ladder. We then learn that this is why the guys were painting. They are helping the old guy paint over graffiti, as this is also Bofurin's job. When they are done, they are given food as a thank you. Hiragi completely understands how Sakura only cares about fighting, since all the other Bofurin guys used to feel the same way. However, they eventually realize that being needed by the people of the town is fun too. Sakura gives it some thought and takes a bite out of the snack. They arrive at a tunnel where Sakura sees a symbol of a pretty ugly looking dog. Nirei wishes he would be more careful with his words, and he explains that they are at the border between Bofurin's and another team's territory. Past these train tracks, they have their own rules, and it's like a totally different country. It would be really dangerous to cause any trouble there. The other team's symbol is the lion head, and they believe that strength is everything. This is supposed to terrify outsiders, but that's the kind of motto Sakura likes. Just then, the group sees that a Furin middle schooler is being chased by Lion's Head members. It becomes clear that this kid won't make it past the train tracks in time, so Hiragi just lowers his head as there is nothing that can be done. However, just then, everyone is shocked when Sakura and Kiyotaro attack the Lion's Head member. Nirei is terrified of what they have done, since they aren't supposed to interfere in the Lion's Head turf. Sakura says that the kid is on their team, so Sakura and Kiyotaro both point out that this means that the Lion's Head members interfered first. Sakura tells Kiyotaro to go away as he can handle this on his own, but he doesn't listen. The Lion's Head members mock their teammate for getting knocked out by one kick, but Sakura thinks about how ruthless they are since he is supposed to be their teammate. Just then, the Lionheads get terrified when someone shows up after seeing what happened. Hiragi can't believe that this guy showed up out of all people, and he reveals that he is the Lionhead's second in command named Togame. Togami wonders what's going on and casually greets Hiragi when Hiragi explains that the guys were chasing one of their own. Sakura gets annoyed by how laid back this guy is, but he can see that he's the real deal when he can tell that Sakura and Kiyotaro were the ones that knocked out his team member. The knocked out guy gets up, furious at them for breaking the rules and invading their turf, but Togami shocks everyone when he smashes a bottle over his head. Togami doesn't care if it was on their turf or not, he only cares that this kid lost the fight. Togami punches this guy relentlessly and explains that him losing means he is weak. The Lion's Head team doesn't like members that are weak, so he continues to beat him up, but Hiragi stops him. Hiragi points out that he is part of Togome's team, but Togome corrects him. He removes the guy's Lion's Head jacket and explains that their group doesn't need the weak. Everyone is in shock at this ruthless guy, but Sakura just thinks he is lame. He thought the Lion's Head believed that strength was everything, but he points out that beating up the weak doesn't really show strength. Sakura stands right up to this guy, disappointed after thinking that he found a fun group. Everyone is shocked to see him stand up to Togame, and the Lion's Head guys are sure that Togami will end his life for saying what he said. Surprisingly though, Togami is fine with it, and more curious about Sakura's strange hairdo. Togami also doesn't like how fast Sakura talks, and gets serious to point out that it pisses him off. Togami reveals that he has made his decision, and explains that he will beat Sakura to a pulp when the time is right. He states that he has memorized Sakura's face, and the Lion's Head guys leave. Nirei breaks out in terror as he points out that Sakura and Kiyotaro might have just started a war. So calms him down and points out that he doesn't want Nirei ending up like Hiragi. Hiragi is so stressed that he has to slam down some Gaskun 10 pills, and Nirei tries to remind him not to exceed the recommended dosage. Nirei wishes Sakura didn't provoke Togame and points out that he might have let them go after the kick. Hiragi knows better and explains that Togame is probably the most territorial guy in Lion's Head. He wouldn't have let it slide, but what's done is done. Hiragi then shocks everyone as he acknowledges that he should have moved first, and he apologizes. Hiragi tells a middle schooler named Sasaki to come with them so they can report to Umemiya. Sakura can tell that Hiragi's stomach is really giving him problems now, so Sakura wonders if he's really that afraid of reporting into Umemiya. Umemiya sounded pretty laid back during his announcement, so Sakura wonders what kind of guy he really is. They arrive at the roof of the school, and everyone marvels at how incredible it is. Hiragi approaches Umemiya, and Sakura prepares to meet the top dog at the school. All the students are shocked though, when Umemiya is just excited about his plants. He wants to barbecue with everyone in the summer, and Sakura wonders if this guy is really the top dog. Hiragi explains that they have got real trouble, and all the boys are shocked when Umemiya reveals that he already knows. It isn't what they think though, as the problem Umemiya is talking about is that they don't have enough seedlings to plant. Hiragi tries to explain that the problem is Lion's Head, but Umemiya just wonders if he wants them to plant some habaneros. The boys can tell that they are clearly not on the same page, but at least they have found out the cause behind Hiragi's stomach pain. Sakura can't believe that this guy is the top dog, but Kiyotaro demands that he show Umemiya some respect. Umemiya just now notices the other guys, so he shows them all his plants. Hiragi is frustrated that Umemiya never listens, and Sakura points out that all the plants look the same. This of course upsets Kiyotaro, and Umemiya tells him to have a closer look since all his plants are different. Sakura realizes that Umemiya was actually like this over the loudspeakers as well. He is kind of a goof, but his voice was all it took to get everyone's attention. Sakura isn't able to see it right now, so he wonders what it is about Umemiya that draws people to him. Sasaki can't take it anymore, so he decides to just explain what happened. He chased after a shoplifter, and before he knew it, he was in Lion's Head territory. Lion's Head chased after him, but he was saved by Sakura and Kiyotaro. Sasaki admires Bofurien a lot, and he just got carried away. He blames himself for sparking a clash with Lion's Head, so he apologizes. Umemiya somehow knows his name, and everyone is shocked when Umemiya actually thanks him. He explains that Sasaki was protecting the people of the town, so he has nothing to apologize for. He then vows that they will take care of the rest. Umemiya then goes back to being casual, as he laughs at how Lion's Head must have hated getting kicked off their feet. Hiragi's in a great deal of stomach pain, as he apologizes as well, but Umemiya points out that he can't take responsibility for everything. Nirei agrees, and points out that Sakura was the one that pushed things too far anyway. Umemiya wonders if he picked a fight, but Sakura explains that they said that strength was everything. They were actually really lame though, since they beat up on someone weaker. Everyone watches in amazement as Sakura didn't hold back and explained everything himself. Sakura fears he will be punished, but he is shocked when Umemiya agrees with him that Lion's Head has been acting pretty lame recently. He heard about what Sakura did on Main Street, and combined with what he did today, Umemiya can only thank him for protecting their family. All the guys are stunned when Umemiya calls him a reliable new little bro, but Kiyotaro clearly doesn't like it. Sakura finally realizes why everyone is drawn to him, and it's because Umemiya makes him feel safe. Sakura doesn't know how to handle situations like this, so he pushes his hand away and wonders who made him his big bro. It's not that big of a deal though, as Umemiya sees everyone in the town as family. Just then, Hiragi receives a call from a guy named Kaji, but he can barely speak and only says the words Lion's Head. Just then, the leader of Lion's Head calls for their attention. He drags Kaji behind him and introduces himself as Choji. He calls out Umemiya specifically and insists that they have a fight. Nirei loses his mind as he is shocked that their leader came. Sakura, on the other hand, thinks about how Tagami was the second in command, and he becomes excited when he realizes that this leader must be stronger than him. Just then, Sakura is startled as he senses a terrifying power. He sees that Umemiya is preparing himself, but he has no clue what that feeling was. All the guys head outside, but Umemiya tells them all to stay back. Sakura angrily says that he wants to fight, but Umemiya has gotten very serious and simply declares that he will not repeat himself. Sakura is shocked and realizes that his legs won't move anymore. Umemiya has completely changed, so Sakura wonders if this is really the same guy. Umemiya tells Choji that he is holding one of his members, and everyone is shocked that Choji is just smiling right in front of him. Umemiya can be really terrifying, so they wonder just how crazy Choji must be. Choji's excited for a one-on-one fight. He points out that they started it, so they can't back down. Umemiya acknowledges that they started the fight, but he points out that Choji has done enough already. He has beat up several of his members, so Umemiya considers them even. Choji has a look around, so Nirei is surprised that the guy just accepted that answer. Umemiya tells Choji to leave, but everyone is stunned when he attacks instead. Umemiya easily stopped the attack and exclaims that Choji is just as impatient as ever. Choji points out that he started a new fight, so it's Umemiya's turn to fight back. Umemiya wonders why he wants to fight so badly, but all the guys can't believe when Choji declares that it's not just about fighting. He specifically wants to take down Umemiya. Choji explains that he has gotten very bored after becoming top dog in Lion's Head. Umemiya is top dog in Bofurien, but he seems to always be laughing and having fun. Choji doesn't think this is fair, so he wants to make Furien his. Nirei thinks the kid is crazy, but Umemiya seems to know something. He understands that this something must have been rough for Choji, but Choji has no clue what he's talking about. Just then, Choji is surprised when his other members arrive, and this causes the Bofurien guys to step up. Togame calls Sakura Reverse C, and Sura calls him Shaggy. Umemiya tries to stop the guys, but Sakura explains that while he won't interfere in a duel, he can't just stand by and watch an invasion. His response is surprising, but Umemiya seems to be pleased with it. Choji wishes everyone would leave so he could have a one-on-one with Umemiya, but Togami doesn't think that's an option anymore. He points to the school, and we see that all the Furien students are angry and ready for battle. Nirei panics as things could get really bad really fast, but Umemiya tells everyone not to make a move. Umemiya agrees to fight Choji one-on-one, just as long as he tells his guys to back down. One of them insults Umemiya for being afraid of battle, but Kiyotaro warns him to watch his mouth. The guy keeps antagonizing, but another Lion's Head guy points out that Kiyotaro was one of the guys at the bridge. So makes fun of the way this guy talks, so Togami calms everyone down. Everyone is then surprised when he suggests that they save their duel for another day as it's getting dark. His reason is pretty evil though, as he points out that it's hard to see people's faces get smashed in at night. He wonders if Reversi agrees with him, but Sakura points out that his face will be the one getting smashed in. Choji can tell that these two have a grudge against each other, so he suggests that everyone get involved. He doesn't recommend an all-out brawl, but instead he wants to have a bunch of one-on-one fights. Togami agrees, so they decide that Umamiya will face Choji. Sakura will fight Togame, Kiyotaro will face the blonde guy, and So will fight the quiet guy. Umamiya thinks that him dueling Choji should be enough, but Sakura and the other guys agree to fight. The three of them are really eager, so Hiragi can't believe this year's new kids. Just then, another Lion's Head member requests that he be allowed to fight. He chooses Hiragi as his opponent, and Hiragi is shocked as he seems to know this guy named Sako. The normally calm Hiragi becomes furious, and he apologizes to Umamiya as he has decided to join the fight. The fight is decided, so they agree to put their teams on the line. The fight will be the next day, so Nirei panics. Sakura tells him to calm down, but Nirei points out that this is all his fault. Tachibana encourages him to eat something, as stressing out won't change anything, but Nirei can't calm down. He fears what will happen if Umamiya loses, but Kiyotaro gets furious by the thought. Still, this means that Lion's Head would take over Bofurien, and Bofurien might even stop existing. Tachibana once again points out that stressing out won't do anything, and reminds Nirei that the Bofurien guys aren't that weak. Sakura would like to leave after scarfing down his food, but Nirei points out that he didn't eat his veggies. Even more importantly though, Umamiya and Hiragi haven't arrived yet. They are late, but Nirei explains that they had to talk down everyone who was ready for blood. Sakura wonders why they wanted to meet at this cafe, and So explains that it's somewhat of a tradition for Bofurien to come to this place before a fight. Just then, Umamiya arrives, and he showers Tachibana with compliments. He even shows her his plants, and So points out that he is quite fond of Tachibana. Sakura wonders if she is his girlfriend, but they all call him an idiot. Umamiya points out that she is his little sister, but she explains that that isn't it either. It turns out that they were raised in the same situation, and Umamiya just started calling her his sibling on his own. Tachibana is relieved when Sakura doesn't think too much of it, but Sakura is surprised to hear that she's only 16, the same age as him. He points out that she is really mature, so he thought she was in her 20s. Kiyotaro can tell that Umamiya doesn't like this conversation, so he puts an end to it. Umamiya then terrifies Sakura by simply agreeing that Tachibana is very mature. Hiragi then explains that Umamiya protects Tachibana like crazy, and terrible things would happen if he ever found out that she was in trouble. Hiragi isn't eating, so he explains that he's just thinking about Lion's Head. Sakura wonders if they used to be different, so Hiragi explains that they believe in strength alone. They used to simply care about strong fighters. They have always had a lot of hotheads, but they never would have chased a middle schooler. Bofurien once had a big clash with them. It was a huge brawl, but Hiragi remembers it being oddly satisfying. Since Choji took over, bad rumors started spreading. He has heard that Choji has been picking fights everywhere. Choji and Togame used to be symbols of strength who cared deeply for their team, so Hiragi laments how something has changed them. Umamiya suspects that it's the fault of someone named Tomiyama. Umamiya explains that they will probably find out more tomorrow, but Sakura points out that they will be fighting tomorrow. He doesn't think there will be much talking, but Umamiya explains that fights are conversations. Punches are a language that sometimes work better than words. However, that might only be true for guys like them. The night comes to an end, so Sasaki thanks everyone for saving him and hopes that they win the fight. Everyone accepts his apology, but Sakura points out that he isn't fighting for him. Tachibana calls him a dope and tells him to say something cool like "leave it to me." This reminds Sakura of how that's exactly what Umamiya said, so he says it too. The next day, the Bofurien guys arrive at the tunnel and enter the Lion's Head territory. Sakura thinks about how this is the first time he has ever fought for someone else. He isn't sure why, but for some reason he feels more unbeatable than ever. Choji welcomes them to his territory, and Umamiya declares that they are ready. Choji excitedly leads them somewhere, so the Bofurien guys follow. On the way, Sakura notices that the entire place is filled with bars. Nirei explains that it's known for getting pretty lively at night, but also very dangerous. Sakura just now wonders what Nirei is doing there, and points out that he isn't in a one-on-one fight. Nirei declares that he is there because he is a member of Bofurien. Even if he can't protect others like they can, he would at least like to be able to protect himself. Nirei asks that he be allowed to learn by watching. Sakura angrily tells him to just do what he wants, but So can tell that Sakura was flattered. Hiragi gets upset with them and wishes they would act at least a little bit nervous about the fight. Umemiya reminds him to relax a bit and points out that the new students are very promising. Choji leads them further into the area, and Togami formally welcomes them to Orion, the Lion's Head secret lair. Nirei consults his little information book and explains to the others that the Lion's Head lair is a movie theater named Orion that went out of business. Nowadays they call it Ori, which means cage. They all enter the theater where a bunch of Lion's Head members cheer as it is announced that the fighters are about to enter the arena. The crowd is very loud and unruly, so Nirei is terrified. So understands the nickname now because this is truly a cage of wild beasts. Nirei begins to wonder if they will make it back home or even if they will make it back alive. Sakura notices this and reminds Nirei that he's there to study. He instructs Nirei to keep his eyes forward, and the refocused Nirei does just that. Choji announces that it's time to begin, and Umemiya points out that he has really turned this entire thing into a spectacle. Umemiya tells his guys that while this has turned into a big event, the only fight that really matters is his one-on-one with Choji. Their wins or losses won't count, so they should feel at ease when they get on stage. Sakura refuses that statement and declares that whether it counts or not, he does not intend to lose. The others agree, and Umemiya is excited by how reliable they are. Choji wants his fight against Umemiya to go first, but there's no way that they're going to let the captain start the battle. The blonde guy wants to go first, as he points out that Kiyotaro has been shooting daggers at him with his eyes the entire time. Everyone is okay with this, so they head to the stage. Sakura reminds Kiyotaro that they still have a score to settle. However, if he loses to pathetic losers like these guys, then Sakura doesn't want to fight him ever again. Kiyotaro has no words like always, and just heads to the stage. The blonde guy's name is Arima, so Nirei finds him in his little book. Arima is known for being a heavy hitter, as he has broken several ribs with just one punch. So tells him not to worry though, since Kiyotaro is pretty much the same. Umemiya shocks them though when he says that they aren't even in the same league. On stage, Arima is annoyed by Kiyotaro's stare. He uses a dirty trick to distract Kiyotaro by pretending that something bad happened to Umemiya. Arima uses the advantage to land a punch, and he calls Kiyotaro an idiot for looking away during a fight. Sakura can tell that there's nothing to worry about though. Kiyotaro's just building up his rage, and he absolutely destroys Arima. He calls Arima the idiot, and reminds him to be more respectful when saying Umemiya's name. Arima's completely unconscious, but Sakura's just disappointed by how weak he was. The Lion's Head guys can't believe that he got knocked out so easily, and they wonder who this first-year Bofurian guy is. Nirei points out that Kiyotaro just needed one punch, and the Lion's Head guys get concerned. Choji, on the other hand, is just amused by how tough Kiyotaro is. The Bofurian guys look over to them, and they see just how focused Togame is. Choji now wants to fight Kiyotaro, so Togami has to tell him to wait for his turn. Nirei is stunned by their reaction. Not only do they not care about the guy who lost, they are complimenting the opponent. Nirei is more certain than ever that there is definitely something wrong with these two guys. Umemiya points out that Kiyotaro has always been really tough, so it's no surprise that he wasn't affected by a punch to the face. Nirei was still shocked by it, but Sakura wasn't because he has already fought Kiyotaro. The others are glad to see that this means Sakura finally accepts Kiyotaro's strength, but Sakura is too embarrassed to admit it. While they argue, Umemiya looks over to the Lion's Head leaders. Choji wonders how Togami would beat Kiyotaro if he had to fight him. Umemiya watches closely, as Togami is so focused that he doesn't even answer Choji. His seriousness gets Choji hyped for more fighting, so he instructs a couple of his guys to clear the stage. The guys get tired of dragging Arima, so they just decide to throw him off the stage onto the ground. They mock Arima for being so weak and kick his unconscious body, which makes Nirei point out how horrible they are. Nirei's then horrified when Sakura tells the two guys to not even talk around him. He never wants to hear them talk about how they're devotees of power ever again, and it embarrasses him just hearing wimps like them speak. So joins in and points out that kids like them just won't understand until they are defeated. The guys get furious and wonder if they're looking for a fight. Their anger turns to terror, however, when Choji very seriously tells them to back away since they are not their opponents. Sakura eagerly wants to fight next, but So declares that it's his turn to fight the quiet kid. So points out that his opponent looks really stressed out, so they should get some exercise. The kid's name is Kanuma, and all the Lion's Head guys cheer him on. As So prepares to fight, he explains that he thought Sakura was stupid for wanting to go for the top spot. Sakura gets furious, but So explains that he was wrong. He thought Sakura's words were empty and meaningless, but he now knows that he actually has a spine. So thinks that's pretty awesome, and he will do his best so he can keep up with Sakura. Sakura never knows what to say in these situations, so he just tells So to hurry up and get on stage. Nirei searches for information about Kanuma in his book, but Sakura is more interested in learning about So. Nirei explains that So was famous for being strong in middle school. Sakura can tell that much just by looking at him, but unfortunately Nirei doesn't have any more information. Hiragi explains that he has heard of So quite a bit as well, but he doesn't have any details about him either. The same goes for Umemiya, but he could tell from the moment they met that So is a kind gentleman. On stage, it turns out that Kanuma is furious after seeing Arima get knocked out. So points out that this is unlike the Lion's Head guys, since they treat their own members so poorly. Kanuma reveals that he has known Arima his entire life, and they have always had each other's back. So points out that he only whines when he is a victim, and that is the behavior of an impatient child. So mocks him by speaking to him like he's a little boy, and Sakura thinks about how the look on So's face is not the look of a gentleman. So's mockery causes Kanuma to attack, but everyone is shocked when So easily avoids it. Everyone then watches as So continues to mock him, as he recommends that they both try and act like adults now. Kanuma is horrified as he can't understand how So got behind him so quickly. He decides to attack faster, but this just gets him tossed to the ground. Further attempts at landing an attack fail, and Kanuma gets even more frustrated when So keeps insulting him. So just keeps toying with this guy, and Nirei is amazed since he is making it look like his opponent is stumbling around on his own. The audience gets annoyed with Kanuma, and they tell him to stop letting himself be toyed with. Kanuma thinks about how they have no clue what it's like to have everything you try so easily countered, and he wishes they had to try and fight So. Umemiya realizes that So is no ordinary gentleman, and Sakura points out that he doesn't even have a shred of kindness. He is actually pretty ruthless, as he is tormenting an inferior opponent and making a fool out of him. Kanuma is getting destroyed, as So makes it clear just how large the gap is in their skill. This would make Sakura want to end himself if he were Kanuma, but of course he would never end up that way. Hiragi is surprised to see that So wanted to prove a point in this fight, and Umemiya assumes that it's because he was affected by someone else. Nirei realizes this as well, and thinks about how So wanted to keep up with Sakura. Seeing So fight has caught Sakura's attention, so he wonders how he can get So to seriously spar with him. The fight continues, but it just becomes more apparent that So is toying with Kanuma. So barely has to move to dodge all his attacks, and he drops Kanuma once again. The crowd has turned against Kanuma, and he is horrified to see that Choji has fallen asleep watching his fight. What's even worse is that Togame is clearly not impressed, and he remembers what happened to the weakling under the bridge. Kanuma begins to panic, and his heart begins to race. So sees this better than anyone, and explains that Kanuma is finally figuring out the answer to what it takes to be an adult. Kanuma absolutely loses it, so he goes in for an attack, but So stops him in his tracks. Kanuma is then shocked when So reveals that he already knows what's going on in his head. He assumes that Kanuma is imagining himself becoming the person he used to ridicule. This is good for him though, since the answer to what he needs to become an adult is an imagination. Kanuma is completely terrified, but So calmly points out that he can now move on to the next step. So ruthlessly continues with his lesson, as he explains that Kunama needs one more thing to make his imagination become a reality. So prepares an attack, so Kanama begs him to stop. Just then, Togami asks that Eye Patch-kun stop the fight. Kanuma can't understand why, so Togami just tells Kanuma that he has humiliated them enough. Togami corrects himself though, as Kanuma can't humiliate them anymore because he is no longer part of Lion's Head. This is Kanuma's worst nightmare, and his imagination has just become reality. So's final lesson is that becoming an adult means being able to empathize. To do that, a person needs imagination and experience. So is happy for Kanuma though, as at least he was able to learn something. The audience is totally silent as they can't believe that Kanuma was completely toyed with. None of the Lion's Head guys know who So is, so they realize that he must be a first year. This is extremely concerning, and it makes them realize that Bofurien is really bad news. So is really humble about his victory, but Nirei wants to know if he used Kung Fu. He is shocked to learn that So doesn't even know what his fighting technique is, since his master just made it up. Nirei diligently takes notes, and So apologizes for his behavior against Kanuma. So says that Sakura motivated him, but Sakura doesn't care, and just wants to make sure that So goes all out when they fight each other. Nirei can't believe how Sakura wants to fight everyone, and So says that he wouldn't want to fight Sakura since he looks like a nuisance. The two of them argue, but Umemi is glad to see that everyone is so lively. So keeps antagonizing Sakura, but Umemiya can tell that they will make a great team. Just then, they see Kanuma dragging Arima's body. Kanuma is still traumatized by what just happened, and he tells Arima that it's all over. Of course, Choji now wants to fight Eyepatch-kun, and Sakura declares that it's finally his turn. Unfortunately for him, Sako points at Hiragi, and Hiragi apologizes to Sakura as they must go first. Sakura is furious and points out that the other two first years just went, so it doesn't make sense to save him for later. Hiragi explains that Sakura's opponent is Togame, but it doesn't look like he wants to step up just yet. Togame is their second in command, so Hiragi points out that it would make more sense if he fought him instead. Sakura gets upset as he assumes that Hiragi doesn't think he can win, but he is shocked when Hiragi explains that he is trusting Sakura. Sakura doesn't know how to handle this situation either, and just declares that he doesn't need Hiragi's trust, he will win either way. Hiragi doesn't talk much about himself, but he and Sako seem to know each other. Choji cheers Sako on, but Togame's just surprised that Sako insisted on having a one-on-one with someone. It's not like him, so Togame wonders if something happened between him and Hiragi. Togame can never tell what Sako is thinking, but Choji's more excited than anything. It's not every day that they get to see one of Bofurien's 4 kings go up against Sako. Hiragi tries to catch up with Sako, but Sako doesn't say a single word. Hiragi then just apologizes as he states that he will be winning this fight. Choji demands that they stop with the talking and just fight, so that's exactly what they do. Sako shows his insane speed, surprising everyone, and he declares that he is tired of Hiragi looking down on him. His old self is long gone, and he plans to force Hiragi to learn that. The two then battle it out some more, and Hiragi just barely manages to avoid a devastating kick. Choji cheers Sako on, and Nirei is terrified as Sako's managing to put a lot of pressure on Hiragi. Togame is impressed by how well Sako is doing, but Choji says it's to be expected since Sako is one of their top 5. Togame explains that Sako has been in more fights than anyone, and he joined Lion's Head seemingly out of desperation. Choji's more surprised by how much Sako just talked. He usually only says yes or no, and one more word if they are lucky. Him speaking more now means that he must be very angry at Hiragi. Sako then dodges a bunch of Hiragi's attacks while pointing out all his weaknesses. Sako's disappointed that Hiragi hasn't improved at all, and Hiragi points out that Sako has gotten a lot more talkative. Hiragi says that he used to be so quiet that he didn't need to teach him not to talk during a fight or he would bite his tongue. Just mentioning their past makes Sako furious, so he goes in for another attack. Hiragi is shocked that Sako has gotten faster, and he gets knocked back. Sako is disappointed to see that Hiragi not only didn't improve, he even got weaker, and it's because he hangs out with a chummy group of pushovers. Sakura becomes furious, but it's not towards Sako. Sako is surprised to see that he is talking to Hiragi. Sakura points out that they're getting mocked because of him, and the only weak part about Hiragi should be his stomach. Nirei has to hold him back from attacking Hiragi, and so points out that Sakura is starting to care more about his friends. The embarrassed Sakura says that he's just angry, so Umemiya calms everyone down. Umemiya tells Sako that Hiragi is one of their 4 kings, and the leader of the team named after Tomonten. He confidently explains that Tomonten has another name, but Sako has no clue what point he's trying to make. Just then, everyone is shocked as Hiragi stands back up and declares that he hasn't gotten kicked like that in a while. Sako then just barely dodges his incredibly powerful punch, and Hiragi acknowledges that Sako is a totally different guy now. Umemiya then reveals that Tomonten is also known as Bishamonten, the god of war who controls the battlefield. Hiragi's upset about being yelled at by a first year and must take some medicine. It isn't all bad though, as the fight is starting to get fun. A look into the past shows some bullies being upset with Sako for being so cocky. Sako denies it, but the bullies just beat him up anyway. Luckily for him, a young Hiragi showed up to ask them what they were doing. Back to the present, the two guys fight it out more evenly now. The Lion's Head guys watch in amazement, as it's not every day that they get to see a one-on-one like this. The Bofurian first years are impressed as well, as they had no idea that Hiragi was this strong. Sakura wishes he would have shown his strength from the start, but So thinks that he was inspired by Sakura's words. Choji's really surprised by Sako's fighting ability, but Togami can tell that Hiragi has the upper hand. This becomes even more evident as the fight goes on, but Sako refuses to believe that Hiragi's current self is stronger than him. This doesn't make any sense to him, as Hiragi lives a cushy life and hangs out with his friendly crowd. Returning to the past shows that Hiragi beat up all the bullies. Sako couldn't understand why Hiragi helped him, so Hiragi just explained that bullying is bad. He told Sako that bullies will keep picking on him if he just stays quiet, so he needs to start fighting back at least a little bit. Sako was completely hopeless, so he begged Hiragi to teach him how to fight. As Hiragi helped him, Sako began to admire his strength. Hiragi never created a herd of his own, but people just naturally gravitated towards him. Sako looked up to him, so he was excited for Hiragi when he graduated and was about to enter Furin High. Sako was sure that Hiragi would get the top spot, and he vowed to help him get there any way he could. However, Sako was horrified when Hiragi told him that it would be best if Sako didn't follow him anymore. Hiragi explained that he decided to support a guy named Umemiya, so he wouldn't be able to take the top spot himself. Things won't end up the way Sako thinks they will, so he tells Sako to find a new goal of his own. Sako was devastated, and he took his anger out by fighting. This was when he was found by Togami and Choji, who were impressed by his strength. Sako only wanted to know if they had strong members, so they assured him that they did. Togami explained that Lion's Head philosophy is devotion to power. The strong are recognized, and the stronger you are, the higher you will go. Sako didn't care about his little speech, and declared that all he cared about was being able to fight strong guys. He was determined to become stronger, so he could defeat Hiragi and make him regret his decision. Back to the present, Sako refuses to lose. Unlike Hiragi, he didn't get chummy with anyone, and instead he devoted himself to getting stronger. Sako goes in for an attack, but Hiragi's able to predict his movements. This just makes Sako more furious, as he points out that Hiragi decided to fall under someone else. He declares that he can never lose to someone like that, but Hiragi stops his punch. Hiragi apologizes for not meeting Sako's expectations and lands a powerful punch. Sako gets emotional and thinks about how not meeting his expectations was never the problem. He doesn't even think that there's anything Hiragi needs to apologize for. Sako knew that Hiragi was only looking out for him, but what hurt was when Hiragi told Sako to stop following him. Sako didn't actually care if Hiragi wanted to support someone else. He just wanted Hiragi to tell him to keep following him. Hiragi's last punch now turns out to be the one that ends the battle, as Sako passes out. Another look into the past shows when Sako promised to follow Hiragi forever before they stopped being friends. He had already made up his mind, as he was sure that Hiragi would take the top spot. He promised to follow Hiragi while he was taking the top spot, and even after. Back to the present, all the Lion's Head guys are shocked to see that Sako has lost, and they're in awe of one of Bofurin's 4 kings. As for the Bofurin guys, they are all really proud of their boy. Choji wants to fight Hiragi now too, but Togami just tells someone to get Sako off stage. The Lion's Head guys are hesitant, so Hiragi just does it himself. Togami tells him that he didn't need to handle Sako so gently, but Hiragi stops him from grabbing Sako. Hiragi states that he should wait till after his one-on-one to deal with Sako, and his anger can be seen as he grabs onto Togami forcefully. Hiragi points out that he should wait since they don't know what will happen. Togami is confused by this, so Hiragi explains that handling things the way they do will not make them stronger. Hiragi calmly says that he's just talking to himself, but Togami points out that he's saying a lot for a person that's not talking to anyone. The Bofurin first years compliment Hiragi on a job well done, and Umemiya says that he was really impressed by his roundhouse kick. Hiragi is sure that Umemiya will want to know about his past, but he is shocked when Umemiya says that he only wants to hear about it when Hiragi is ready to tell him. That will be the story he wants to hear, so Hiragi is relieved that he said that. We then watch as Togami zones out as he looks into his past. Choji snaps him back to reality and reminds him that it's his turn. Togame tells Sakura to get ready, and everyone cheers as Sakura declares that he already is. The cheers get violent, and So points out that they are cheering much harder than before. Everyone wishes Sakura luck in their own way, and Umemiya tells them to have a nice long talk. Sakura remembers that a fight is like a conversation, but he isn't even sure what that means. None of that matters though, as Sakura reminds himself that he told the kid to leave it all to him. Sakura would like to hurry up and get the fight over with, but Togame would rather take his time and enjoy it. The two fighters then prepare themselves, and the crowd goes crazy with anticipation. Sakura tries to start off with a punch, but Togame instantly tackles him. Togame nearly lands a terrifying punch, but Sakura manages to get away. The crowd cheers even more, and Sakura must gather himself from the shock of what just happened. Hiragi thinks about how Sakura has shown just how good of a fighter he is the past few days. However, Togame's the person that keeps all the crazy Lion's Head guys in check. He can only manage to do this because he is really strong. Sakura points out that Togame's going pretty fast for a guy that wants to take his time, but Togame doesn't even consider this a fast pace. Togame decides that he will stay at this speed until Sakura can keep up, and Sakura is more than willing to play along. The two continue to fight it out, and everyone marvels at Togame's incredible speed. Nirei wonders if all Sakura can manage to do is dodge, and Umemiya explains that Togame and Choji have always stood out amongst the Lion's Head guys. This means that Togame's on a whole nother level compared to the other guys, and he is sure that Sakura can feel that better than anyone right now. Just then, Nirei celebrates as Sakura manages to land an attack, and Togame is impressed that he's already catching up. Sakura isn't fast enough yet, as Togame drops him and nearly crushes his skull. Togame remembers how Sakura called him lame in the tunnel, and he explains that it really irritated him. Just then, Sakura manages to sweep Togame's leg, but Togame makes him pay by smashing his face into the ground. The crowd erupts with cheer, but Nirei is horrified. Togame's pretty disappointed to see Sakura out cold already, so he tells him that he's much lamer than he is. Sakura acts cocky, but Togame explains that only people with power can act that way. Togame assumes that Sakura acts tough because he's in a strong group, but when he is alone, he doesn't have a voice. Sakura becomes furious after hearing this, so he tries to strike Togame. Togame points out that he's still talking, but Sakura breaks free and continues attacking. Sakura agrees that freedom is given only to those with power. Without power, a person can't push through with who they are. As Sakura makes his declaration, everyone is shocked to see that he lands a kick. Togame seems to think of Sakura as one of the people Sakura hates the most, so Sakura decides that he can't lose to him no matter what. Sakura takes the lead in the fight now, and the crowd goes silent after seeing Sakura's sudden change. Nirei always knew that Sakura was strong, but even he didn't expect this. Sakura is furious and reminds Togame that losing to him would mean that Togame was wrong about everything. The Lion's Head devotion to strength would mean nothing. Sakura's barrage of attacks ends with an incredibly powerful kick to Togame's face, stunning everyone. Togame reminds him not to get cocky, and he lands a devastating kick of his own that sends Sakura flying. Togame explains that their devotion to power is very serious. Everyone cheers as he declares that all Lion's Head guys always strive to get better. Togame stomps on Sakura's head and declares that the Lion's Head guys are way more powerful than the superhero wannabes like the Boffirin guys. Everyone cheers as they are sure that Sakura won't be able to get back up, but So knows that the fight isn't over. Sakura is somehow still conscious, and he declares that what the Lion's Head guys are doing is not a devotion to power. He declares that they should just change their name to the Bully Club. This suits them better because they like to hit guys that are already down. They even chase down middle school kids to beat them up. Sakura refuses to lose to guys like them, but Togame has heard enough and he stomps on his head again. Nirei can't watch, but he is shocked when the crowd goes silent after seeing that Togame didn't stomp on Sakura's head this time. Togame has no clue what Sakura is talking about, so he excuses himself from their fight for a moment. He thought that Furin was on their turf for no reason, so he demands that Kanuma and Arima tell him what happened. They admit that they were messing with the middle school kid and try to blame it on someone else, but Togame has heard enough. He beats them relentlessly, and everyone just watches in shock. Togame removes their Lion's Head jackets from their lifeless bodies, and Choji just tells them to hurry up and return to his fight. Togame apologizes for making Sakura wait and declares that it's time to continue. A look into the past takes us to a festival. A younger Togame is surrounded by a bunch of Lion's Head guys, but he takes them out. He prepares to fight even more of them, but Choji appears, amazed that he was able to defeat them all by himself. Choji can tell that he's really strong, so he asks Togame to join them. Togame gets really confused, so Choji explains that he just joined himself, but he is sure that Togame would like being part of Lion's Head. Togame was hesitant, but Choji insisted. Time then passed and they would become very close. One day, Choji would ask Togame if he knows what a devotion to power means. It's an oath you make to push through who you are, unyielding to anyone else. And power is something you use to be free. Rumors began to spread about how strong the pairing of Togame and Choji was. The two of them would even go into other groups' territories alone and come out victorious. They returned from one of these fights one day, and the other members couldn't believe that they did all that fighting just to get payback for one of their members. Choji didn't think it was a big deal, as he was just trying to become the freest guy ever. No one had any clue about what he was saying, so Togame explained that they were taught that power is a means to be free. This means that the strongest guy is also the freest. Choji was having a race with Togame to see who could become the most free, so he urged the others to join them. Togame now thinks about how Choji was strong and seemed to have more fun than anyone else. Choji was like the sun that embodied the concept of their devotion. Togame actually had no intention of racing Choji. He was just bad at hanging around people, but when he was with Choji, he could enter the social circle. It was fun and he felt like he was free. Togame thought that the team would be even better if Choji became the leader, but he realizes now that he was wrong. One day after Choji became the leader of Lion's Head, he thought about how the leader is the strongest and freest. Togame agreed with this thought, but Choji seemed distraught as he had come to realize that it's not fun at all. Choji decided that in order to fix this, everyone in Lion's Head would have to be as strong as him. Togame was glad to hear it, and he assumed that Choji wanted to train everyone. Just then, some guys from their group arrived with one of their members that got beat up by the Zinc Boys. Togame was prepared to get revenge with Choji, but he was horrified when Choji just attacked their member that was already beat up. Choji was disappointed that the guy just came straight back after being defeated, and he explained that he wouldn't get stronger that way. That meant that he could never be free, and that would be no fun. This was when Choji declared that weak guys are not wanted in Lion's Head. Choji looked for agreement from Togame, but Togame was still in shock. He was sure that this wouldn't make anyone stronger, but Choji reminded him that he was the leader. He was the strongest and the freest, so he makes the decisions. Choji then told Togame that if he didn't understand, then he should just get out. Togame was horrified by what he was hearing, but he agreed to do as Choji said. He agreed to tell everyone about Choji's views, and he even agreed to carry out the punishment to everyone who opposed them. However, Togame's one request was for Choji to simply keep smiling around everyone. It was on this day that Togame decided that he would get covered in mud because Choji is the sun, and the sun must be loved by everyone. Even if it means blinding everyone with power to become free, Togame vows to keep this version of Lion's Head going, until the day the sun shows itself again. Back to the present, the guys continue to fight, but everyone is startled when Sakura seems to have taken a commanding lead. Sakura becomes annoyed and refuses to believe that Togame is being serious. He points out that Togame doesn't even seem to want to land a punch or dodge his kicks. Sakura wonders what he's trying to do, and Togame can only wonder the same thing himself. Sakura dodges some of Togame's attacks, but he can tell that something is wrong, and there is confusion in Togame's fists. Sakura thought that they picked this fight because they knew everything, but Togame clearly didn't. Sakura wants answers, so he asks Togame why he punched those guys. He thought that anyone with power could do what they want in Lion's Head, but he is shocked when Togame explains that this is not a place for scumbags. Togame was trying to rid their group of all the scumbags when they encountered Bofurin at the bridge. Fighting Bofurin was Choji's obsession, and Togame thought that it would trigger some kind of change. However, this fight has just led to them all getting wrecked. There is no turning back for Togame though, because on that rainy day, he chose to commit to this wrong path. Sakura once again questions what he's trying to do, but he is shocked when Togame simply says that he wants to go to the mountains. Sakura doesn't care about any of that and just points out that Togame is one of the scumbags he wants to get rid of. He does the stuff that scumbags do, and Sakura thinks he's pretty lame for that. Sakura wants to make him realize that himself, so he will do that by winning the fight. When that happens, Sakura is sure that Togame will stop being lame and become an awesome guy that he will want to fight against. Togame thinks that's pretty selfish of Sakura to say, but Sakura doesn't care. This is simply what it means to push your will through in a fight. As Sakura attacks, he declares that no matter how strong his opponent is, and even if his opponent saved his life, he never averts his eyes, nor does he distort who he is. This triggers Togame's memory once again of how shocked he was when Choji told him that he could leave Lion's Head if he didn't like his vision. And Togame decided that he would do all the dirty work so Choji could keep smiling with everyone. Sakura's attack lands, and so have his words. Togame now laughs as he compliments Sakura on being really good at pushing people's buttons. Togame punches Sakura, and Sakura is glad when he can tell that Togame's finally getting serious. Sakura gives him the nickname Scraggles, but Togame removes his sandals in preparation for a real fight, and he demands that he be called by his real name. Togame is finally ready, so he calls Sakura by his name and tells him that it's time to fight. The two fighters go all out now, landing several attacks on each other, and the crowd goes silent as they watch the absolute brawl. Neither of them are holding back, but the crowd is terrified when they notice that Sakurama and Togame are both laughing even though they're having such a violent fight. The fight is absolutely brutal as they destroy each other with a barrage of attacks, but the two of them are clearly enjoying themselves. So watches in amazement as he had no idea that Sakura was this good of a fighter. Nire doesn't really understand why, but he tears up as their fight has touched his heart for some reason. Even Hiragi and Umemiya are impressed with Sakura. Choji on the other hand watches the fight in complete silence. Sakura continues to battle it out, but something is really confusing him. He's supposed to be fighting a guy who does really lame stuff, so he can't understand why fighting Togame feels so comfortable. Sakura is also surprised because he has never been called by his name during a fight before. Togame is doing some thinking as well, as he notices that Sakura is having an irritating amount of fun during their fight. That isn't all though, as he can tell that Sakura's movement is getting better with every passing moment. Togame can't even hide his own enjoyment as he tells Sakura to bring it on, and they both charge at each other. The fight reaches its apex as they both kick each other in the face at the exact same time and collapse to the ground. Nire is horrified, but the two fighters just laugh. Togame never knew that fights could be this enjoyable, and Sakura feels the same way. They have been fighting for long enough though, so they decide to end it. The two charge at each other once again and prepare their most powerful punch. Just then, Togame thinks about how Sakura said that he would never distort who he is for anyone. This makes Togame realize that he should have fought back against what Choji told him that day. He didn't though, and instead he averted his eyes. Togame couldn't push through who he was, but he can see the potential in Sakura. He is sure that Sakura will become even stronger than he is now because he's not afraid of pushing his will through no matter who his opponent is. Togame just hopes that Sakura never changes. Togame decides not to go through with his punch, and in his head he thanks Sakura for helping him finally understand. Sakura's punch is the one that actually lands, so Togame declares that he can no longer move and he gives up. The audience is stunned since they have never heard those words from Togame, the guy who charges in laughing even into dangerous situations. Even the Bofurian guys are at a loss for words. Sakura is really angry though, and can't understand why Togame is just giving up. He isn't happy with how their fight ended, and he demands to know why Togame decided to lose on purpose. Sakura is interrupted by the excited Choji, who would like to fight Sakura one day. However, right now, Choji's ready to fight Umemiya. Togame urges Choji to call off the entire fight because he has come to realize that he was in the wrong. Choji's too excited about fighting Umemiya to listen, so Togame insists even more. However, just then everyone is shocked when Choji attacks Togame and tells him to just shut up already. Choji declares that Togame just lost, so he has to quiet down. This causes Sakura to absolutely lose his cool as he goes in to punch Choji, but Umemiya instantly appears out of nowhere to stop him. Umemiya explains that it's time to swap spots, but Sakura is so angry that he can't back down. Umemiya points out that Sakura seems to have had a great conversation, and him defending Togame is proof of that. Togame's then shocked when Umemiya asks him if he could just leave the rest to him. Togame allows it, so he leaves the stage, and so does Sakura. Sakura, in his typical angry attitude, tells Umemiya that he will beat him up if he loses to Choji. As Sakura walks off stage, he can't understand why Togami getting attacked makes him so angry. He thinks about how glad Umemiya was about him having a proper conversation, but he still can't understand as he didn't hear any words from his fists. Nire catches Sakura as he almost falls, and the others welcome him back. Hiragi knows that Sakura doesn't like how the fight ended, but he explains that it was Togami's way of setting things right. Besides that, Hiragi compliments Sakura on doing really well, but Sakura still doesn't know how to take a compliment. Choji's excited about finally being able to fight Umemiya, but Umemiya wants to ask him something first. Umemiya wants to know if Choji felt anything after watching Togami and Sakura fight. Choji has no clue what he's talking about, so Umemiya says that it's a shame. Choji doesn't know why it's a shame either, but he doesn't really care. All he knows is that it's really unfair how many strong people Bofurien has, and it's nothing like Lion's Head. Choji realizes that everyone in his group is so weak, and determines that this is why he can't become free. The audience is shocked to hear Choji speaking this way, and they can't believe that this is how he really thinks of them. Choji makes it clear that he only cares about power, as he finds comfort in knowing that if he wins, Furien will be his. Choji thinks that Umemiya looks like he's always having so much fun because he is stronger and freer than anyone else in Furien. If he can prove that he is stronger than Umemiya, Choji is sure that this time he will be free and he will start having more fun than anyone else. He rejoices as he can finally put an end to all his boring days. Choji now turns to Umemiya and demands that he hand Furien over to him. He begins his attack by jumping on Umemiya and landing several punches. Umemiya manages to get him off, but Choji just keeps coming at him. The Bofurien guys are left stunned, as they have never seen such reckless movements in a fight before, and so thinks that Choji is a natural-born monster. Hiragi thinks it makes sense though, because Choji is the youngest leader in Lion's Head's history. Sakura is still shaking with anger, but he realizes that things would not have gone well for him if Umemiya didn't stop his punch. That isn't all he's upset about though, as Sakura knows that he only won against Togame because Togame held back at the end. Sakura is no pushover though, and just becomes more determined than ever to become much stronger. Choji continues using his seemingly reckless fighting style to keep Umemiya on his toes, but he stops for a moment when Umemiya has something to say. Umemiya explains that things will stay rough for Choji if he keeps saying things like woulda, coulda, shoulda. Choji has had enough of Umemiya's talking though, as he doesn't make any sense, so he just goes in for another attack. Umemiya shows just how terrifying he can be with a punch that Choji must back away from. Umemiya is disappointed that Choji doesn't get what he's trying to say, and Choji is shocked when his nose starts bleeding, even though Umemiya's punch never landed. Umemiya declares that against someone who can't understand what he's talking about, he's 100% sure that he won't lose. The intense fight continues and the Bofurien boys can't believe how crazy Choji is. Umemiya is fighting pretty evenly against him, but Choji manages to get behind and kick Umemiya. Choji is shocked when Umemiya isn't affected, and he must dodge quickly as Umemiya nearly destroys him. Choji's confused because he is sure that he's landing his attacks, so Umemiya explains that Choji has no weight behind his fists. Everyone is confused, so Umemiya explains that it's because Choji isn't fighting for anything. Choji doesn't care and determines that he just has to keep attacking until Umemiya collapses. Choji begins his attack again and finally manages to land an uppercut. Umemiya is once again unaffected and states that Choji's attacks just won't work on him as he slams Choji to the ground. Choji barely manages to get up, but he declares that he will be free no matter what. He tells Umemiya to get out of his way and starts attacking again. Umemiya wonders what this freedom is that he keeps talking about, so Choji explains that it's when he has fun. Umemiya asks for an example of fun, so Choji fights back and says that fun is fighting someone tough like Umemiya. Umemiya points out that it doesn't look like Choji is having fun, and determines that he doesn't know anything about himself. This is why Choji must feel empty, so Umemiya pities him. Being pitied infuriates Choji, so he begins attacking again. Umemiya just keeps going though, and says that he pities Lion's Head for having a leader like Choji. Umemiya reminds Choji that he's at the top now, so he shouldn't let his comrades see him this way. Umemiya then lands a powerful punch, shocking everyone, and Nire is glad that he joined Bofurien. He's even more glad to have Umemiya as their top guy. Choji thinks about how everyone sees him, and realizes that their happy faces were only from the past. Choji gets really confused and just tells Umemiya to stop over and over again. His panic ends with a loud scream, and Choji simply decides that he doesn't want anything. Choji then wonders how long it's been since his world turned so dark and gray. He has been empty for the longest time, almost like his heart has become a desert. Choji feels like he is lacking something, but he no longer cares. Back to reality, Choji absolutely loses his mind, which shocks Togame. Choji unleashes a barrage of attacks and brings Umemiya to the ground. He attacks without mercy, and onlookers wonder why Umemiya isn't fighting back. Sakura becomes furious as he reminds Umemiya about how he said he was 100% sure he wouldn't lose. Nirei fears that Umemiya is going to lose his life, but Kiyotaro just tells them to shut up and watch. Choji eventually stops punching, and Umemiya surprisingly apologizes. He didn't mean to push him over the edge, but it made him realize that Choji was at his wit's end. Choji tells him to shut up and just starts punching again, but Umemiya explains that his reckless behavior will keep him in the same place. Choji has completely lost control, and in his rage he bites down on Umemiya's neck. Umemiya remains calm and tells Choji that the answer is still in his heart. Choji backs off in shock, and Umemiya reminds him about the altercation between Lion's Head and Bofurin. In the end, it was all a misunderstanding. The battle ended and Choji told Umemiya that it was the most fun he ever had. Umemiya says that Choji's fists felt a lot heavier back then, and he wonders what he had around him. Choji tells Umemiya to stay back when he approaches, and he trembles in fear when Umemiya reaches out to him. Choji is shocked when Umemiya just holds him and tells him to think back to what Choji saw back then. Umemiya is sure that whatever that was is what Choji needs for himself and what's needed at the top. Togame watches in awe and quietly thanks Umemiya for what he's doing. Umemiya demands for Choji to remember and uses a headbutt to really encourage him. Choji sees a vision from the past and wonders why everyone looks like they're having so much fun. He is jealous of them and asks them to let him join. A look back shows Choji petting a cat, and everyone points out how laid back he is. They then explain that they're headed to a fight. They remind Choji that he's aiming for the top spot, so he will have to get more serious. Choji can't even remember who they're going to be fighting, and everyone has a good laugh. Choji's really happy as he's having a lot of fun with everyone, and he hopes that it continues forever. Just then everyone disappears, and Choji's left all alone. He sees Togame doing something nearby, but before he can call out to him, Choji falls through the ground. Choji realizes that this must be a dream, and thinks about how it's been a real long time since he had one. He wakes up to find Togame staring at him, and he wonders why he has such a sad look on his face. The entire arena has gone completely silent, and Choji realizes that he lost against Umemiya. However, Choji smiles and tells Togame that he had a dream about the past. Everyone was smiling and having a lot of fun. This made Choji realize that if everyone else is smiling and having fun, then he has fun too. Because of this, Choji wants Togame to smile, and Togame is shocked. Togame can only apologize for leaving Choji alone and for not knowing what was tormenting him. Togame feels terrible for taking everyone away from him. He just didn't want to see Choji hurt everyone and see everyone hate him. Togame has always wanted Choji to be loved by everyone, and he wanted to protect the moments like when he carried Choji on his shoulders. That is why on that day, even though he knew it was a mistake, Togame averted his eyes. However, fighting Sakura made him realize that he needed to confront Choji and push his will through. Togame apologizes for not talking to him and searching for the answer together with him. He says sorry for leaving him alone and taking away what he really needed. Togame apologizes over and over again, but Choji has something to say. He believed that if he became leader, he would have more fun than anyone else. He imagined himself leading everyone to a treasure box at the top of a hill, and reaching it would make him freer than anyone else. Choji was always excited that something amazing would happen if he reached it. However, once he finally got there was nothing inside the box. Choji was surrounded by darkness, and he didn't feel anything. He became scared and eventually felt like he was empty inside. No matter what he did, he could never feel anything. He felt hollow and like he had to do something. Eventually he couldn't even see anything, and he ended up blaming it on everyone else. He started saying that because the entire team was weak, he wasn't free and he couldn't have any fun. If everyone became strong, he would finally be able to have fun. Choji tells Togame that he didn't take it away from him, he did it himself. He realizes that he was having a lot of fun when they were just hanging out like buddies. He was already free, but he just never realized it. Choji admits that he just broke it all down himself. He credits Togame for keeping everyone together while he went through this, but Togame doesn't like seeing Choji this way. Choji realizes now that he was just the only one that didn't see things clearly. Umemiya told him not to make others look unhappy, but Choji is sure now that Togame has been looking that way for a long time. Choji takes the blame for that and is amazed that Togame was able to keep everyone together despite it. Choji apologizes profusely as he realizes how hard that must have been for him. Everyone is stunned as he sobs, and Choji eventually gets up. He thanks Togame one last time and is glad that he can at least make things right at the very end. Choji walks up to Umemiya and everyone is shocked as he concedes defeat while raising his jacket to him. Some members try to stop him, but it's too late and Choji announces that he will be dropping out of Lion's Head. Lion's Head belongs to Umemiya now, so he just asks him to take good care of everyone. Togame prepares to do the same, but Umemiya surprisingly tells Choji, heck no. Umemiya says that they were the ones that put the teams on the line, and he had no intention of doing any of that. Umemiya doesn't care about expanding his team or anything. He doesn't even care about higher and lower ranks because it's too much of a pain. Choji points out that Umemiya beat him, so Umemiya says that they will just have to be friends from now on. And this fight they all just had can be considered a get-together. Umemiya casually thanks everyone for coming, and they're all shocked. Togame's in awe as Choji laughs and tells Umemiya that he's a real funny guy. Umemiya calls it the end of the get-together and tells everyone to go home. Umemiya would like to know if there's a good restaurant nearby, and he surprises everyone when he says that it's time for the after party. Moments later, Umemiya celebrates, but Sakura wonders what just happened. Umemiya and Hiragi enjoy some of the food, and Neri can only wonder how they can eat under these circumstances. Neri's glad that So agrees with him, but it turns out that So was actually just on a diet. Sakura is in complete disbelief as he can't understand how Umemiya can eat with someone he just fought against. Just then, he begins to question if that was even really a fight at all. Umemiya didn't treat it like one, and Sakura thinks about how he could never do what Umemiya did. Umemiya gets concerned because Togame isn't eating, so Togame takes a moment to apologize. He takes full responsibility for the entire incident. Lion's Head becoming rotten to the core, the raid at Bofurin, and the fight today, it's all his fault. Choji shares the blame and apologizes to everyone as well. Just then, Sakura is shocked when Umemiya says that the decision is his. Togame agrees and is prepared for any punishment. Sakura thinks about all the wrong Togame did, but he also thinks about their fight. Sakura decides on a punishment and tells Togame that he absolutely must become a really cool guy. He's not allowed to do lame stuff anymore. The guys accept the punishment, and Umemiya announces that everything is officially settled. He really enjoys his meal, so Choji points out that Umemiya is at the top, and he wonders why he seems to always be having so much fun. Umemiya's answer is simple, as he just really likes to eat food. Everyone is shocked, but Choji excitedly says that he loves eating too. The two share their favorite foods, and Umemiya explains that another part of eating that he enjoys is gathering people to enjoy food with him. Talking and laughing with friends is a good way to forget about the bad stuff happening in life. Umemiya looks forward to those times more than anything, which is why he has so much fun. Most importantly, all that has nothing to do with the fact that he is on top. Choji sees this now as well, and wonders why he couldn't realize it before. Umemiya, in all his wisdom, explains that people don't thank oxygen when they're breathing. Choji had fun stuff right in front of him, but it was just too common for him to realize it. Umemiya is just glad that Choji realized it before it was gone. Choji then wonders why Umemiya reached the top even while knowing all of that. His answer is once again simple, as he just wants to keep having fun eating with everyone. As long as everyone is smiling, he can enjoy his meals. He thought about what he would need to do to accomplish that in this town, and the answer just happened to be the top of Furin. He wasn't aiming for the top, there were just things that he wanted to do at the top. Choji's amazed that Umemiya was able to get to the top, but Umemiya says that he was only able to because of the people that let him. Sakura is then shocked when Umemiya says that you can't reach the top on your own. He was only able to reach the top because everyone carried him up. The ones helping him were people that related to what he wanted to do. Because of this, when he got to the top, his wishes were no longer just his own wishes. They were everyone's wishes, so he vowed to never lose. Sakura is in awe of Umemiya, and everyone else admires him as well. Choji can't believe that Umemiya has so much on his shoulders, and he finally realizes that this is why his fists are so light. Umemiya really is incredible, and Choji now knows that there was no way he could win. When the party ends, Umemiya invites the Lion's Head guys to come visit Bofurien. He assures them that they have some great food and gives Choji some bread that he just happened to have. Togami is clearly grateful towards Sakura, and the two groups part ways. Choji tells Togame that he knows that everything he has done is not something a simple apology will be able to fix. Choji doesn't know what he should do, but what he does know is that he needs all his friends. Togame feels the same way about his actions and knows that he needs to face the situation. This time will be different though, as he tells Choji that they will look for the answer together. The two share the bread that Umemiya gave them, and Choji laughs because even though it's cold, it's still pretty good. Choji wonders how good it would be fresh out of the oven, but Togami begins crying for some reason. Choji doesn't notice and just assumes that it's raining again. Togame goes along with it and points out how strange it is for it to be raining when the sun is already shining again. Back in Furien, Sasaki gets really excited when he sees that the other guys have returned. Umemiya can't believe that Sasaki was waiting for them the entire time, and he reminds him that he was supposed to leave it to them. Umemiya reveals that it's all over, and the kid breaks down as he thanks everyone. Tachibana can't believe that they all got patched up already, and Umemiya explains that they are friends with Lion's Head now. Tachibana points out that So doesn't look tired like the others, so he explains that he's just the type that doesn't sweat much. She sees that Sakura is pretty beat up though, and welcomes everyone back home. Sakura remembers how Tachibana told him that he can't reach the top on his own, and how Umemiya said the same thing. The others wonder if something is wrong with him since he has been quiet for a while now. Sakura ignores them to say that he's just going home, but Umemiya stops him and explains that this is a day to celebrate. Sakura doesn't think that there's anything worth celebrating, but Umemiya reminds Sakura that he was able to have a conversation during his fight. Umemiya declares that it's Dialogue Anniversary Day, but Sakura has no clue what that is. Sakura just wants to leave, but Umemiya reveals that he wants to speak with him. Sakura thinks about how everything he believed was completely wrong. He thought that you could get to the top all alone, and the strongest guy ended up at the top. Everything that has happened recently though shows that things are not like that. Umemiya wonders how Sakura's conversation went, but Sakura explains that he didn't have one. He didn't hear any voice coming from his fists. Umemiya has a good laugh as Sakura just interpreted what he said incorrectly. He wasn't talking about telepathy, and Sakura wasn't supposed to actually hear voices. When he said that fists were a language, he meant that they are a means to convey something. Fists are older than language, and what it conveys is primitive. Sakura is confused, so Umemiya clarifies that fists simply convey whether or not you like or hate someone. Sakura spits hot coffee on Umemiya out of shock, and Kiyotaro has to be told to calm down. Umemiya explains that Sakura definitely had a conversation with Togame. He must have gotten closer with him, which is why he came to Togame's defense when Choji attacked him. Sakura still doesn't understand why this should be celebrated, so Umemiya explains that it's because it makes him happy. Umemiya was curious when he first heard that someone was coming from out of town. He was skeptical about Sakura, but the events that have happened recently have made it clear to him that Sakura is a good guy. Someone like him coming to their town just makes him happy. Everyone begins to joke around, but Sakura is still upset and can't understand how he can just let everything slide so easily. It's not just Umemiya either, it's everyone in the town. Sakura says that he came to take the top spot, but he's beginning to realize that he won't be able to. He has never been able to accept anyone, which is why he decided to become stronger on his own. Reaching the top at Furien would allow him to accept himself for who he is, but it turns out that he needs other people in order to take the top spot. Sakura cannot accept others, so he concedes that he will never reach the top. Just then, Nirei interrupts him and reminds Sakura that he told him that he wasn't super lame before. Sakura took a good look at him, and it made Nirei really happy. Umemiya then explains that there are conditions that need to be met in order to converse with fists. The person has to confront someone and want to know them. Even though Sakura doubts himself, he has proven that he's capable of having a conversation with his fists. Umemiya is sure that this means Sakura can achieve anything, and he can even reach the top. Sakura is absolutely shocked, and the others watch as they agree. Sakura angrily points out that him reaching the top would mean that Umemiya lost to him. Umemiya is as casual as ever, as he says that they can deal with that when they get there. Kiyotaro furiously wants to fight Sakura, so Sakura tells him to bring it on. The guys are getting a little too carried away, so Tachibana tells them to settle down. Sometime later, Sakura thinks about everything Umemiya told him. His friends catch him grinning about it, but Sakura tries to deny it. At school, So tells him not to be embarrassed, but Sakura just wants to be left alone. Nirei points out that people seem to be staring at them, so Sakura tells him that they might have to get used to it. They are shocked as soon as they enter class because everyone was waiting to see them. They are the talk of the town, and everyone wants details on their fight against Lion's Head. The guys leave the explaining to Nirei, but everyone points out how he doesn't look injured at all. Nirei prepares to explain everything, but some other kid wants to join the conversation first. His name is Suge, and Nirei explains that he's a bit strange. However, his skills are on par with So's and Kiyotaro's. So seems to already know this guy, but refuses to answer a question Suge asked him before. Suge gets over it though, because he has a question to ask Sakura now. Sakura prepares for a fight, but he is shocked when Suge just flexes and asks him what his virtue is. It turns out that Suge was asking everyone this the day before. Suge explains that someone's virtue can tell you a lot about them, and Nirei agrees that it shows what kind of person they are. Nirei of course knows a bunch of stuff about Suge, including how he likes to drink protein shakes all the time. Suge realizes that Nirei knows so much about him because of his little notebook, and concludes that he must have a hefty virtue. Nirei says it's no big deal, but Suge tells him not to be so humble. Sakura wonders if the goofy Suge is really that strong, and so quickly confirms it. Suge declares that they should hear Sakura's story over some food after school, but everyone walks away saying that they have things they need to do. Suge is shocked to see how busy everyone is, and Sakura can't believe how gullible Suge is. Just then Kiyotaro arrives, but he walks away too. Suge assumes that he's just busy, but Nirei can tell that he just didn't want to deal with Suge. Suge decides that it will just be the four of them, but Sakura just straight up refuses to go. Moments later though, we see that Nirei managed to force the guys to go, and they arrive at Suge's favorite spot called Muscle Power. This place is filled with fighting and wrestling stuff, so Sakura wonders if they will actually be able to find good food there. Suge recommends a muscle-friendly dish and explains that it's high in protein and low in carbs. Sakura seems pretty particular about what he wants to eat, so Suge points out that that could be his virtue. Suge can tell that Sakura likes to be secretive about stuff, so he shocks everyone by declaring that they should fight. Suge heard Sakura say that he was going to take the top spot 2 days ago, and he is sure that someone that can say something that big in front of everyone must have a virtue. Suge urges Sakura to tell him his virtue with his fists, and Sakura is reminded about what Umemiya said about how fighting is a conversation. Sakura thinks fighting would be fun, so tensions rise, but they are interrupted when some other student arrives. Sakura recognizes this guy from class, and he's shocked to see him holding hands with a girl. His name is Kiryu, and he ignores Suge's request to sit together. Nirei can't contain his excitement as he points out that 4 of the 5 powerhouses in their class are in the same place. So compliments Sakura for being one of the top 5, but Sakura just wants to know how strong Kiryu is. Nirei explains that Kiryu went to a rich kid's school, and rumors say that when he was a first year, he defeated third years from an infamous delinquent school all by himself. Sakura wants to know more, and Nirei can't believe how hungry his friend is for information today. Sakura's face is getting really red, but he just tells Nirei to hurry up and tell him more. Nirei goes on to say that Kiryu is popular with the ladies, and so can tell that Sakura is just desperate to not think about the relationship Kiryu has. Suge takes it upon himself to invite Kiryu to their table, and he explains that Sakura would like to know more about him. Sakura denies it, and Kiryu remembers him from class. He is intrigued by the fight Sakura just had, so Suge can tell that he wants to learn more about Sakura too. Unfortunately, Kiryu's busy, so he suggests that they chat again at school. Sakura feels embarrassed, and Suge makes it worse by insisting that Kiryu tell him what his virtue is. Kiryu's friend is getting uncomfortable, but Kiryu assures her that everything is okay. He can tell that Suge is scaring her though, so he becomes very serious and asks Suge to stop. Tensions rise, and Kiryu wonders if Suge knows how other people perceive him. Kiryu explains that he has a large frame and he looks powerful, so some people might be intimidated by him. This is especially true when he is shouting, so Kiryu tells him that if he doesn't change, then he will never be popular with the ladies. Suge recognizes the error in his ways, so he apologizes to the girl. Kiryu takes her somewhere more quiet, and Suge explains that he apologized because carelessly scaring other people is against his virtue. Just then, the guys hear shouting, and we see that Kiryu is being confronted by a large group outside. Kiryu explains that the girl was being bothered by this random earlier, so he knocked him out and they ran. Now the random has come to look for her with a huge group. Suge admires Kiryu a lot and determines that his virtue is to be considerate to girls. The random tries to say that he has business to take care of with Kiryu, but Suge just ignores him to admire Kiryu some more. The random gets fed up and goes to attack, but he just gets rocked by Sakura. Everyone is stunned and Sakura calls them lame for ganging up on people. Sakura hates guys like them, but Nire wishes he wouldn't taunt them so much. So tells the girl to stand back and not to worry because the 3 guys on her side are really tough. Suge offers to let Sakura sit the fight out since he is still injured, but Sakura refuses. Kiryu apologizes for getting them involved and declares that they should dispose of the group quickly. The fight begins, but everyone is surprised when the big tough Suge is the first to get dropped. Their surprise turns to amazement though when Suge stops the next attack and explains that he decided to let the opponent get the first hit. It's his turn now though, so Suge suplexes the guy straight into the ground. Suge states that he lets his opponent shine first, then he steps into the limelight, and that's his virtue. The fight continues, but Sakura gets upset because Kiryu keeps flinging opponents in his direction. Kiryu just thought that things would end quicker if he sent them Sakura's way, and Kiryu shows off some of his strength. The brawl goes on, but Nire wonders why Kiryu is making the other 2 do all the fighting. So tells Kiryu not to worry about what's behind him, and he assures Kiryu that he got his back. Kiryu is glad to hear it, but some thug wonders why So is just chilling and watching. So says that he's just a chill guy and flips the thug over. Kiryu is amazed by So, and Sakura realizes that Kiryu was preventing people from going to a certain area. Sakura rescues Kiryu moments later and tells him that he can keep sending opponents his way. Kiryu tries to thank him, but Sakura doesn't need it, and Suge begs Kiryu to send some opponents his way too. Minutes later, Nire is amazed when he sees that the fight is over, and Sakura says that all the thugs were so weak. Suge wants Sakura to say Bofurin's motto, but Nire explains that Sakura's from out of town, so he doesn't know it yet. Suge does the honor and declares that anyone who causes pain or brings destruction will be purged by Bofurin. Suge said it a bit too loud for So's liking, and Sakura remembers hearing it before. Kiryu tells the thugs to use their power for good from now on, so they agree and leave. The girl thanks everyone for defending her, and Kiryu says that he didn't expect Sakura to be such a good fighter. Sakura aiming for the top spot makes sense to him now, and he's glad to have learned this before they're supposed to select their grade captain. Sakura has no clue what he's talking about, but everyone gets distracted, and they ask Sakura to share his contact information. Sakura is so antisocial that he doesn't even know how to do that, so Kiryu decides to just enter his info into Sakura's phone. When using it, he notices that Sakura only has 1 contact saved. To make things worse, this contact is just to hear what the weather is, and everyone has a good laugh. Sometime later, Tachibana wonders why Sakura has been staring at his phone for so long. She notices all the new contacts in his phone, and she adds hers too. Sakura gets put into a group text, but he doesn't understand why everyone wants to chat on their smartphones when they're just going to see each other at school. A mention about picking grade captains gets Sakura's attention, but the texts are going too fast, and Sakura can't find a chance to ask about it. Sakura just ends up getting overwhelmed, and he starts scarfing down his meal. When he arrives at school, Sakura angrily demands to know what a grade captain is. Luckily for him, it is explained that they were just about to start talking about it. Just then, the grade captain and secondary captains for the second years arrive. These guys are practically celebrities, and Neri never thought that he would see them close up. The second year captain is Enomato, and he tells the first years that they have to pick a grade captain. Any problems in this class will be his responsibility. This person seems like they will be the top of the class, so Sakura imagines that it will be someone like Umamiya. So raises his hand, but Sakura never thought that So would volunteer himself for something like captain. Sakura is then of course shocked when So points at him and declares that Sakura would be a good choice for grade captain. Sakura tries to object, but everyone starts saying that Sakura would be a great choice for grade captain. Sakura tries to say that Kiyotaro would be a better choice, but everyone points out that he isn't suited for stuff like that. Sakura says that he isn't either, but most importantly he is an outsider. The other students don't care though, because Sakura has done enough in this short time to gain their trust. Also, the 3 high-skilled guys in their class are recommending him. So offers to be one of his secondaries and suggests that Nirei be the other. Sakura can't believe what is happening because the grade captain is like the top of the class. He thinks about how he wanted the top spot just for self-recognition, and Sakura thought he was just like Choji. Just then, one of the second year secondaries gets tired of waiting and tells everyone that grade captain isn't that big of a deal. His screaming is really loud, but everyone is shocked when his headphones are removed and his voice quickly returns to normal. He has his music on way too loud, so everyone wonders if he's going to blow out his eardrums. He decides to just settle things and tells Sakura to just be grade captain. He points out that no one is expecting him to be perfect, and they can always just switch him out for someone else if things don't go well. Sakura angrily tells the second year grade captain that he should be deciding, but he's shocked when the guy explains that Kaji is actually the second year grade captain. Inamato announces that Sakura will be the first year grade captain, but Sakura points out that he still hasn't agreed. Inamato reminds him that he just said that the grade captain should decide, and Kaji already did. Everyone does their best to tell Sakura that he will be fine, that is except for Kiyotaro, who is fast asleep. Nirei is then shocked when the second years exchange contact info with him, Sakura, and So. Inamato points out that there are a lot of good first years this time, and he tells Sakura to do his best to lead them. Sakura has no clue about how to do that, so Inamato explains that he should just do whatever he wants for now. This just gets Sakura even more frustrated though, because he doesn't want anything either. Inamato gets an idea and has the 3 guys follow Kaji up close while he does his rounds. Nirei tells Sakura that Kaji used to be quick to get into fights before middle school, so there's no telling what might set him off. Just then, some old lady says that she lost her child, so Kaji assures her that they will find her for her. Nirei is really surprised though when Kaji delegates the work to Kasumi. Sakura can't believe it either because he thought a grade captain would be more hands-on like Umemiya. Nirei is worried about the missing girl, and Sakura declares that he will make sure to find her. Just then, Sakura is shocked to see that So has relayed what he just said in their group text. Sakura is sure that no one will care, but it turns out that everyone's pretty excited about it. Sakura bumps into some cat, and Inamato appears to reveal that the missing girl is actually a missing cat. They chase after her, but it eventually runs up a building, and Inamato determines that there's nothing they can do about it now. Just then, Sakura shocks everyone with his parkour skills and expertly makes his way up the building. Sakura is right on the cat's tail, and Kaji watches him closely. Sakura just narrowly avoids running into someone, but he still finds it really hard to capture the cat. The dumb cat jumps off a dangerous bridge, leaving Sakura with nothing left to do, but he's shocked when Kaji appears out of nowhere to dive after it. Moments later, the old lady thanks Inamato for saving her cat, but he gives all the credit to Kaji. She goes to thank Kaji, but he just tells her to make sure that it doesn't happen again. She promises to be more careful from now on, and the guys are given a gift. Sakura goes to ask Kaji what it is that he wants as a grade captain, but Kaji has no clue what he's talking about. Kaji explains that he didn't even want to be grade captain and only did it because his friends wanted him to. Sakura realizes that it's the same thing that happened to him, but he figures that this means there's no reason for Kaji to be doing the captain thing. Kaji takes great offense to this for some reason and strangely says that he can't make candy if he runs out. Kaji can't communicate with others well like Kasumi, and he's not good at rounding guys up like Inamato. That is why he relies on them, but they also rely on him. Because of this, Kaji does his best to live up to their expectations. Sakura realizes that it's okay not to want anything, but then wonders if living up to his friend's expectations is something he wants to do. Nirei gives Sakura the gift they received for helping and compliments him on how he looked like a ninja while chasing after the cat. Nirei knew that they could count on Sakura because he's always so reliable. Sakura wants to confirm what Kaji told him, so he asks his friends if they chose him for grade captain because they are counting on him. They of course confirm it and assure Sakura that he can count on them too. Moments later, Sakura collapses inside of Tachibana's restaurant after carrying the old lady, and the old lady wonders if she has gained some weight. Sakura says that it's nothing, but his face looks terrible, and Tachibana wonders if he hasn't been sleeping. Her guess is right, but Sakura decides not to let her know that he was up all night thinking about what he should do as captain. Sakura gets surprised when she wonders if his class chose their captain yet, and she realizes that it must be him. She thinks he will make a great captain, but Sakura points out that he doesn't know what to do. Luckily for him, Tachibana has some simple advice. If he doesn't know what to do, then he should just start with what he can do. Sakura can't refute her good advice, so he just tells her to stay out of it. Tachibana just keeps the good advice coming though, and says that remembering his classmates' names and faces is something he can do. Calling people by their name will be a sign that he has taken a good look at them. Sakura just now realizes that he hasn't called anyone by their name, and Tachibana wants him to start practicing right now. He gets overwhelmed though, and just runs off. The old lady calls him bashful, but Tachibana thinks that Sakura is just afraid of building close relationships with people. When Sakura returns to school, he has Niri tell him everyone's name. They wonder why Sakura seems interested in everyone all of a sudden, so he just explains that it just wouldn't hurt to know more about them. His friends wonder if he even knows their names, but Sakura just gets insulted by this. Niri continues naming people, but one kid named Enze seems upset and he leaves the class. Just then, the first and second year captains are told to meet on the roof with their secondaries. Niri excitedly wonders what it could be and urges Sakura to hurry up. They find that everyone else is already there and Kyotaro's doing some gardening work. Enomoto explains that the first year captains and secondaries are mostly guys who were famous from their middle school days. The guys that are second years are mostly just carryovers from being the captain in secondaries as first years. So has talked to most of these guys already, but Sakura is just upset because these are even more names and faces that he will have to remember. Niri can tell that his buddy is stressing out, so he starts going over everyone's names. Sakura can't believe that he knows all the names of the captains, but Niri points out that he actually knows the names and faces of everyone at the school. Even So is shocked to hear this, and Niri explains that he borrowed the school roster recently to memorize everyone's names. Niri knows that he's no use in a fight, so he figured that he could make Sakura's life a bit easier if he memorized everyone's names for him. Niri's pretty determined, so he reminds Sakura that he said he would help him get to the top. So is pretty impressed by Niri's contribution, so he decides that he will be their negotiator. The guys are kind of confused, so explains that he's pretty good at making others accept his requests. So declares that they should all do their best, and Sakura is impressed by how they know what they are good at. Sakura leaves those things to them, and his friends are shocked when he calls them both by their names. Umemiya shows up with some more students, but Sakura just gets annoyed about having to remember the names of even more grade captains. Niri is terrified though, as he explains that those people are not grade captains. They are the 4 Knights of Furin High and their secondaries. Thanks for watching my recap. Subscribe to the channel because we're almost at 700,000 subscribers.